Well, our show's going to be a little bit different today, isn't it?
That'd be a nice change of pace.
Nice change of pace, and it's an important topic.
It's a subject that definitely needs to be addressed. It's a subject that we have heard about before in the media, and I don't think it's ever too much to address it, as much as we possibly can.
Keep it fresh in people's minds, because there are a lot of aspects to this particular. Yes. I'm going to call it a disorder.
Okay.
In our world today, and with people in our world today, but it is something that has gotten a lot of coverage, as you mentioned. But it continues to happen. It continues to happen, and what we're talking about specifically is bullying. Now, we know it's happening not just nationally, but I'm sure worldwide. I mean, people are people everywhere.
Right.
But in our own community, very recently, we've had events that are very upsetting to our community, and it's disturbing when we hear it on the news.
Right.
There is a lady in town, let's just mention our friend Rosa. There is a lady in town that was very directly on a personal level affected by some of the sadness that has happened in our community recently, and she actually suggested to us that perhaps we would make this a topic, and we were all for it. We totally agreed. So thank you, Rosa, for that input. Okay.
And I know they've also have had different groups starting to form to kind of have a support group type of situation on trying to figure out how to prevent this, how to handle it, how to deal with it, how to help the people that are left behind.
Both the bullier and the victim. Of
correct.
The bullying. So what we are going to talk about today actually are some of the characteristics that not only parents and friends can look for, but making people aware of some of the traits or characteristics, keeping in mind that it's not everyone.
That's right.
That these are general characteristics that have been specified by professionals. And there's always that exception to the rule. So,
correct.
But this may help. This may help somebody become aware. So, first thing we want to do is mention that a bully is not necessarily the typical stereotype, the bad boy syndrome or the bad girl syndrome. Often they're very good students, making good grades. They're suck-ups.
Right.
Very often suck-ups to the teachers, to whatever, to somebody.
They're phony. They're always seeking approval. They're trying to get the attention, and I think that does kind of give you a characteristic of something stemming deep down within them as a insecurity.
Insecurity, anxiety. Often bullying is, and I found this very interesting. Often bullying is to cover up shame. Shame, anxiety.
Shame is a very, very, it could be very repressing for someone to carry, whatever it may be.
And it's not always bullying. There are lots of people that have been victims of something or another that they carry shame about, that they cover up in many ways, but quite typically it's depression.
Right.
You know, there's some form of depression. And bullies are often themselves victims of bullying.
Right.
So, okay, so we want to address that they're not always the bad boy, the stereotypical, often good grades, suck-ups, that kind of thing, wanting attention kind of stuff. But very often a bully cannot distinguish between leadership and bullying.
Interesting. That could be definitely like a fine line for many people as far as authority.
Right.
Authority type of position.
Or they're seen as good leaders. Oh, this guy or this gal has great leadership skills, and they may have. But the problem being they cannot distinguish
Right.
between their own leadership
Right,
qualities
right.
and bullying.
Right. And bullying can come into a form of manipulation.
Oh,
Being manipulated, feeling guilty about not providing whatever. You know, if you don't come with me,
Right.
then you're not on the team. If you don't do this, then I'm going to take this away from
off
you.
the team.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, they're often very narcissistic. Okay, it's all about me,
Yeah.
me, me. So we have sadness, like covering up for anxieties, for shame, for inadequacies that they're feeling within themselves, but also the narcissistic part is thinking they're great leaders.
Right.
They're taking great roles in this,
Yeah.
and it's really not.
Right.
You know, it's really the
Right.
bullying effect. You know, I interviewed my grandson.
Oh, that was good.
He's a junior in high school.
Yeah. So he's been in
He's
school
there.
and he's experienced some issues, I'm sure.
He's there. And so I thought, you know, instead of just talking to adults, let's talk to a source that is right amongst where it's happening, you know, school-age children. And by the way, it starts young.
It does. It starts very young, and then it becomes, like we talk about, a habit, and they realize they can get away with it, and they get away with it again,
Sure.
and then they move on to another victim. It's almost kind of like a predatorial type of thing that they could start learning how to do and manipulate and become better at.
Right, okay, like give me your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Your lunch money or whatever, or give me your lunch. I'll take that candy bar.
Right.
So it can start as early as kindergarten.
Yeah.
But even times before, I think bullying shows up, if someone has those qualities within them, can show up very early.
Yes.
So when I talked to my grandson about this, he said some interesting stuff. I mean, really some stuff that surprised me. Because bullying is typically an area where they will pick on someone that's different than themselves.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And he said often it's just somebody being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what surprised me was that he said there are boundaries.
Okay. Interesting.
The boundaries, he said, because in his school there are students that are in wheelchairs or Down syndrome, you know, autistic children, whatever. And he said, really, they're not picked on.
That's good.
Isn't that
That is good that there's some morals
I agree.
there.
I agree.
If that's really true, I'm sure that they experience some sort
or
of
exceptions
right.
to that rule.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
some.
exceptions, and I'm sure everybody finds a prejudice against somebody different against them.
Right.
But
right.
if that's true for the majority, that is wonderful.
Well, and that's what he said. He said even though bullies will just usually pick on anyone that's a little different from themselves, that this seems to be an area where there are some boundaries drawn, which I agree with you. There are exceptions, and I was happy to hear it. But we also talked about the ones that are very homophobic, since the gay students or gay, not just kids, gay people in general are picked on a lot.
Yeah.
And he had some statistics. I'm not sure exactly where he got them, so we can't quote the percentage.
No, we can't.
Because we don't know.
But I'm sure everybody's experienced something.
Oh, homophobes. I know a lot of homophobes that, you know, always have made me a little suspect anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there is.
And it doesn't matter. Bullying is bullying regardless of what your belief system
Right.
is, what your religious background is. Bullying is bullying no matter what.
But the statistic I was talking about, they actually have an area of a percentage of homophobes that came out of the closet a few years after
the fact.
and came out.
And like you said, it probably comes down to that feeling of shame, that feeling of just trying to cover up something that they are having an issue with.
Well, and that's it, the cover-up, where there's anxiety, shame, inadequacy, depression. But those are signs to look for, is any of these characteristic traits, or even the phoniness of, You know,
Yeah.
hey, Mrs. Onea, you look great today.
Yeah.
You know, in
Yeah.
a school,
when
the
it's
suck-ups.
overly, when it's
the
too
suck-ups
much.
over the top.
Well, and that's something I would like to really to get out there, and much easier said than done. I know what I'm going to say is much easier said than done, but really, truly, when a bully or anybody projecting something onto you is their issues, and if you really can grasp that concept, it has nothing to do with you being different from them in the sense it's something that they're covering up, it's something that they're trying to hide, repress, not deal with. Not that it makes it okay, and not that I'm encouraging it, but
Right.
for the victim, on the other hand, to realize that it's not about them.
Well, you said it, though. Easier said than done. If
yes.
somebody's being picked on because they are a little different or somewhat,
Right.
how...
And it doesn't make it hurt any less. It really doesn't. But you can kind of detach yourself from the situation as far as you starting to believe what they're projecting onto you.
And we'd like to say we hope you take that to heart.
Yes.
But again, as you mentioned,
Easier said than done.
But one of the big things today, and it has to do with the times, our times, is cyberbullying.
The computer, we've got the Facebook, we have all the media, we have all the internet, everything that we are just overly inundated with,
Right.
and we're constantly on and overstimulated with. So
And some of the meanness that has come out in people, towards and directed towards, like, a slanderous thing that may be the biggest lie in the world, but yet everybody believes it. I don't know why, when it's a common thing, but they want to believe it, or they pick up on something, and it can ruin someone's life. And we do know of young people that have committed suicide, have taken their own lives because it was more than they could take.
Right.
And in situations like that, I think the families need to be so supported.
yes, very supported. And just being there, not assuming that they have all the help they need, and it's not coming to them and trying to get into a theological or a philosophical discussion about why it happened. You don't need to say those things to these people. They don't want to hear that right now.
Right.
They just want to know that they're loved, they're supportive. Be very specific for what they need and what you're going to be able to provide and do for them.
Or just do it.
Or just
do it. Don't talk
because
about it. Just do it.
In their state, they're not only physically, they're not only emotionally hurting, they're physically hurting because they're not getting the sleep they need.
Right.
They're not
eating right.
They're not eating right. So if you
Right.
can help by giving them some healthy food to bring to their house,
Clean the house. Pick
house.
up a broom,
And-
help clean the house.
and just take that initiative and just do it, because they're in a state that they don't even want to think. Things are piling up on them. They need to call their work. They need to call their appointments. They need to get a hold of people, and that starts to pile up on them, and they're just not even in a position to even want to
Right.
want to even deal with that. And just let them know that they're loved and they're supported. Don't tell them, don't try to make it sound like it's never going to be the same for them.
And don't get on your soapbox, Onea.
Don't get on your soapbox. Yeah. Am I getting on my soapbox?
Good Lord, huh? Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So
No,
it's
you're
just,
very passionate about this.
it is.
Yeah.
It's something that I had worked on a lady one time, and she said her son passed away, and she says, and everybody has all these wonderful things to tell me.
Right.
And I said, I was washing her hair, and I said, that really sucks. And she said, thank you, because it really does.
It
and
really sucks.
There's nothing you can say that's going to make me feel any better about
No,
it.
but people are in a position where they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So it's important to also keep that in mind, that, they don't mean to be hurtful. They don't mean to be unkind. They just don't know what to say, okay?
Right.
And I have found through, friends of mine going through grieving situations in my own world, my own family, I've lost good friends, but I've never lost a family member. Well, that's not true, but it's been many years ago. And of course, your grandma, grandpa, that kind of thing you do expect to go.
Right.
But often people are afraid to mention someone's name.
Right.
The person that's deceased or has crossed over, they're afraid to mention their name. I always think, what a shame.
Yeah.
You knew their name while they were here. It's still the same identity.
Right. And you want
mention
to keep
their name.
And we want to keep their memory alive. And
to a
the
point.
And the person that's grieving wants to hear about it too.
Exactly. So a good point, Onea. Yes, even if you did get a little bit soapboxy there.
It's just, I mean, the people left behind are just as, they need the attention that they need.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think people that just will come in, bring them some good food, bring a meal, pick up a broom, do the laundry for them, that kind of thing.
Well, and we've always talked too about the power of word. And the power of the word is, you have to be so impeccable with your word, because it can lead to somebody believing something that you said to them if it's negative.
We just did our show on that last month, that people are truly not who they think they are. They've just been fed these things. They've had this input, you're this, you're that, to where they believe it. So we did talk about the power of the spoken word and that kind of thing. But that's hard, especially for young people, any age actually.
Any age.
You want to be accepted by your peers, and your peer groups are more important than your family.
Isn't that sad when they're the ones that's supposed to be the most supportive and the ones there for you?
But when you're a kid in school, and I'm telling you, I know adults that whatever job they're in, career they're in, whoever their friends are, their peers' opinions about them are more important than anything a family member thinks about them. Okay, it's very important. The human being wants to belong.
Yeah.
It's all about a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
So when we do talk about bullying, because you might be a little bit different and you are being bullied, it's because you feel like there's something wrong with you. You don't have that sense of belonging.
Well, we had talked about in our past shows that we have 60,000 thoughts a day.
Oh, yes.
And 80% of them are negative. So we already do that to ourselves, and then to have somebody just confirm a belief system.
Right. I was trying to think if I was ever bullied. I was made fun of a little bit. I probably still am today and don't really know it. But, I came over from Germany at age 10 and did not speak English.
Okay.
So learning the language, I didn't pronounce things correctly. I didn't say some things correctly. And, the kids made fun of that. I don't believe that it really scarred me in any way. I think I just really tried harder to correct the things that I was being made fun of, pronunciation and things. So occasionally it can work to where someone does something to improve, okay?
Right.
I truly believe that's probably less often than the other.
True. Yeah.
But once in a while, you can say, hey, wait a minute, I'm being made fun of here, and I think I'm going to correct this or improve it. Which may happen very seldom, but I hope it happens at least once in a while, okay, compared to the negative outputs. Right. We were going to talk next week on our show about morality. But maybe this is a good show to bring some of that
I think so.
up. Don't you think?
Yeah.
The moral of people has changed.
Yes.
And we're not going to talk about, the tight little mini skirts and the high heels and the way kids dress. But I tell you, I've driven by our high school many times and have thought, oh my God, there is no way in my day, which might be 100 years ago, but no way that you could have worn anything like what they wear to school today to school, okay?
Well, the values of just your own self-worth is what I think we have lost sight of.
Oh, totally. Moral issues are, I'm not saying everybody's immoral, but the moral value is not what it used to be. There's a completely different identity with sex.
Right.
For the kids, for the adults, for whoever. Sexual issues today are completely different, or values, than they used to be. Not that I was being brought up in a convent by any means.
Right.
But I was afraid of my parents.
Yeah, well, my dad was the chief of police, so.
They're usually the worst. PK kids and chief of police kids, so
I plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah, right, exactly, which is true. A lot of times if the strictness is a little overboard the other way, then you go to the other extreme. But no, I think that for parents to not have some kind of a acceptable dress code, and I don't mean you have to be, in pilgrim clothing by any means, but when you're going to school with half your butt hanging out and, this and that, or the guys, even the guys, the way they dress.
And I think too, if you really talk to kids and they if they want something from their family, what they want is for their family to be more present, to be.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, it's not really that they were lacking in anything financially with all the fun stuff, all the good stuff, but just that that boundary. Kids want the boundaries. I don't care how much they fight it. They need that structure and the boundaries, yes.
And don't you find that a lot of parents today are trying to be friends? They're trying to be their kids' friend instead of a parent. I think you can be both, but there's a fine line.
But there's definitely that you are the parent that needs to lead by example,
right?
And guide.
Yeah, that's an important factor. The best teaching of any teacher, anytime, anywhere, is teaching by example.
Yeah,
I'm so glad you said that. But we have a lot of fine young people. We're not trying to sound like we're ragging on the young people of today. We just took a topic, thanks to Rosa, and she has a lot of involvement because she and her husband own a restaurant in our town, and so they have a lot of interaction.
Yeah, with the kids.
With kids. And our town has a huge rehab population, halfway houses, and we're delighted with it. But these people really get involved and talk with them, and they find out what's going on. And this was a real concern of hers and of ours.
And it's a concern that the community has, and now we're trying to rally together and try to get a support group going. I don't know exactly where you can find that, but I think if you maybe get online and see if there's anything local.
I know there is. I know there were things started anyway and what have you.
Yeah.
But even
and thank you for the people that did that are getting these groups together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But most of all, we just wanted to get a few of the traits. They're not always obvious. They're not always as blatantly obvious as we would like. So you have to kind of look for it. But we've mentioned several things, not just the obvious bullies, but covering up depression, anxieties, shame. If kids are being bullied themselves, the mistaken idea of great leadership. If it is great leadership, yes, you'll be able to see the difference.
Right. Yes.
But just to look for some of these signs.
Right.
And not just the bullies, but to look for signs in the victim. Because they're often depressed, afraid to go to school. If your kid's afraid to go to school, there's something wrong.
Yes, exactly. Or not, exactly. And that's what a sad thing, because that should be the fun, part of
happy
your fun.
time.
Yeah, your happiest time
years.
of your life. But be aware of your kids and
there's enough pressure. I mean, there's enough pressure in our world today without having to have that on top of everything else. But as parents, and we're both parents, and in my case, I'm already a grandparent, and I have just as much concern for my grandchildren.
Definitely.
Maybe even more so because than I had for my own, because it's a different world.
It's a different world, different times, and it's just it's a very serious subject. It's a very extreme topic anymore because people are getting hurt over it. It's not just a simple case of sucking it up and get over it.
Or go to a counselor.
No, it's a very, very serious subject. And, and I know people that are watching this do understand the degree of its severity.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure. There's no way that anybody could listen to this subject by us or anyone else and not take it seriously, because it's very serious. That's what it is. It's a serious subject. And I feel like we try to do our little part to bring awareness. Yeah. We've often talked about that, whether it's self-awareness or a society awareness, moral awareness. We do our small part in making just even one person, if it makes a difference in somebody's life, then we've done some good thing. We did a good thing.
It's like planting a seed and just letting it grow. And for us to do our part is to be kind with our words. And bullying comes in every form. Not that we would consider ourselves bullies, but we do want to, be very conscious of how we treat others.
I try to. I try to be kind. Not always, but there's no way. If I'm ever unkind, I don't have any peace inside. It eats at me, okay? And I don't mean I'm cruel, but every once in a while I'll say something to the, kids or grandkids that's not real kind, and then it bothers me. It bothers me, and I like that feeling behind my belly button of peace and comfort. So, yeah. But
I think it was a good topic today.
Well, I do too.
I think people can relate to this, and just the power of the words.
The power of the spoken word is huge, absolutely huge, and so is awareness.
Yes. Bringing
some awareness to some of our people. And Onea, it's fall time. I'm loving it. It's cooling off outside. The leaves are starting to turn, and all is good in the world, isn't it? And that's what we're talking about.